Hey guys, I'm back here again from CNH. Got a quick video for you guys. We're here today. We had a chop saw that was dropped off here about I think about 2.5 weeks ago. It's a Stihl TS510 AV specifically for that. The guy he just stopped over here out of the blue and he wanted to have the machine checked out by us over here because he never called or call us up and made an appointment, because typically we work by appointment only because of the COVID-19 protocols. We have to follow over here for that. And his main complaint was the machine would not start over here for that. He did tell us he was basically screwing with the machine over here, and he went ahead and took off all the fuel lines off the machine over here, and it took us a while to figure out how the fuel lines were routed on this machine over here, because the guy just he started taking fuel lines off and he even put them in a bag over here for that. And we had to go online, and I had to look up my IPLs for the Stihl machines out there for that, because we rarely work on something like this out here, because Stihls, we primarily work on the chainsaw and the string trimmer. We really don't do the construction type of machines right here for that. And we found out on this machine right here, his carb was bad on there, because the throttle shaft, where it holds your throttle plate in place on there, both ends of the carb where it holds the shaft in position on it, it was basically flopping around the whole shaft down inside. It was causing a lean mix problem right there for that. The carb needs to be replaced. These carbs are not cheap on these machines. They're about $180 to $200 for a new carb. And the second thing was the machine would not shut off over here. The kill switch over here would not work. We took the kill switch off. We checked the switch itself. We checked the wire going to the kill switch. Everything checked out okay. But the thing is, when you put it back on here, it would not work, which means the ignition module itself is probably shot. And unfortunately, the coils for these machines, they're also $200 right there for that. No joke. That's what it is. And right now we did get the machine running over here because we took the carb off and we cleaned it out a little bit inside there. We put new fuel lines on the machine, and let me see if I can get this top cover off right here and show you what we did on here specifically for that. It took a while to figure out what needed to be done to this machine, because the guy was just screwing around with it over here, and he basically brought it over to us in a box. And most of the time we just don't even work on jobs that are brought to us in a box, because the problem with having somebody bring the machine to you in a box is you just don't know where a lot of stuff might go on here, because some of these machines are quite complex out there, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to take a while to do out there for that. And it took us probably about a week's time to get the routing done correctly for this machine on it, because they have a really goofy fuel system on these machines. You have like 2 tanks on these machines. The one tank in the back is back here, and then you have a secondary like overflow tank up in the front up here for these machines. They have a really goofy setup on some of these machines. I don't know why the Germans ever came up with that kind of design, but it is what it is, and it's a really goofy design. And that's one reason why we tell people to leave the machine wholly intact when you bring it to us, because 9 times out of 10, if somebody calls me up and tells me they want to bring over a machine, one of the first questions I ask them is the machine wholly intact? And if they say no, and the machine's like dismantled, I'm not going to spend hours trying to install the whole thing back to what it was when they first had a problem, because you might we had a guy a few years ago. He had a tractor, and the guy basically dismantled the entire machine down to the frame, because he could not figure out how to take the belt drive system out of the machine. And he expected us to come down to Pittsburgh and pick the machine up and have us reassemble the whole thing. And I told him, sir, you told me the machine was in working condition. Then when we get down there, the machine's totally dismantled. And he basically tells us, oh, you don't want to challenge. And the problem with you got people like that is either the guy's mentally ill, or he's mentally unstable or something like that. And you have no idea of knowing that until you actually meet the person out there for that, and that can be a real potential problem for some people out there for that. So we finally got the machine running over here. We did a quick carb clean on to try to see if we can get the machine running, at least running over here, even though the safety switch doesn't work on here. We also put 2 felt pads on each side of the throttle shaft onto the carb, so it would try to stop any kind of outside air from getting sucked down into the 2 pieces of the shaft for that. Plus we also put new fuel line on here, and we cleaned the tank out in the front, the back here. But this whole apparatus right here, it's gonna be taken off. We put boiling water down inside here, and we put some gasoline, switched around with some ball bearings in there. Because he had this entire tank, it was full of old gas. There was water. I don't know how much water he had in this thing, but it looked like it was sitting outside somewhere. I honestly don't know, but the thing had at least a half a cup of water inside the tank right here for that. And he had bad gas in there. The other thing was all the fuel lines were taken off. The guy was, you know, screwing around the machine. He didn't know what he was doing. And I had to get my IPLs for this machine here. We got a IPL CD for these Stihl machines out there for that. And the problem Stihl is out there, guys, is Stihl is very tight-lipped about their IPLs and service manuals out there. However, you can you know, find them on, you know, certain websites out there for like CDs and stuff like that. We had the IPLs of this machine right here for that, and we had to look up all the parts right here for that, for like the fuel system and everything else on this guy's machine. And we had to look up the routing and how the fuel system is routed on this machine right here for that, because they have a really goofy system on here. They have like a dual pickup system on this one right here that he has right here. So you can see what it looks like in the diagram right here. They have a 2 pickup fuel system on this machine here specifically for that, and you basically have to have you know, 2 fuel filters on this one. You got one up here, you got one down there, and they have this goofy convoluted routing system on here for the whole fuel system on here. It's so crappy. I don't know who really came up with this kind of design, but that's what it looks like in the IPLs right here for that. You got your fuel tanks. You got these 2 fuel tank type of systems on here. You got one in the back right here, which is the one I was showing you right here. Then you have a secondary one over here on our side. You have a secondary fuel tank up here as well too. And it's just, I don't know why, I don't know what they were thinking when they came up with this design, but it's just, you know, so screwed up. I just don't understand why they would even came up with this kind of design for a fuel system on it. But it's so complicated, where this should only have maybe one tank in the back, then you just have one return line going back to the same tank. But for some whatever reason on here, this machine, they got the thing routed with 2 tanks. You got one in the back and you got one in the front up there for that. So basically, right off the bat, he needs a new carb, a new coil, and the other thing is the call the clutch on the other side right here. The clutch needs to be replaced as well too, because the clutch, anytime you pull the engine over on here for the you know, trying to start the machine up, the clutch will not disengage. I'm trying to pull it over here, and the belt, you can see the belt moving right there. Belt is constantly under tension on there for that, which means the clutch is shot. It needs a new clutch on there for that. That's about another $70 right there for that. Plus the bearings down inside the engine where they sit behind the clutch on here are shot as well too. They're growling, they're going when it's running out there. And those things need to be replaced as well too. So this machine, technically from a you know, financial standpoint, it's not economical to repair because of the problems with the machine right here for that. So we'll go ahead and put that back together on here. Get this thing back down on here, right? Get on there. These things don't want to go on there. All right, let me get this thing out of the way here. Okay, let's just slide on good now. Okay, put that back on here. So we'll go ahead and fire this thing up here for you, and hopefully it's just starting a couple pulls, because the engine, miraculously, we checked the ports on this machine, and the ports look quite good on here. They have about 150, 160 psi on the engine right here, which is quite good for an older machine like this, especially one that has been abused out there for that. And we'll go ahead and see if we can fire this thing up here. So let me put my camera down here real quick, and I'll try to get this thing fired up here for you and see it run here, guys. So stay with me, bear with me for a couple seconds, and we'll get this thing fired up here. Get this thing situated right. There we go. I'll keep it right there. Okay, get this thing out of the way. Let's see if we can fire on one pull. So the kill wire will not work on here. There's something wrong with the ignition coil on this machine here. And like I said before, it needs a new carb, new ignition coil. And he also needs the extensive, fuel lines on here as well too. Need to be replaced on here. New fuel filters, tank need to be cleaned out. And your problem is the clutch on this machine is not functioning at all. It simply will not allow the machine to idle down because of the carb problem, and also the clutch is not allowing to disengage on the machine as well too. So you got a boatload of problems on here, and unfortunately, it's going to need probably about $400 to $500 in actual parts. That does not include shipping and handling, tax, labor, stuff like that. For that, it's simply not economical to repair this machine because of those facts. Because I was looking on eBay here a couple days ago, and they have machines almost identical. This one for going for what the heck was the price? It was between like $400 and $600 for good and better and best out there, basically for a like a fair to good machine, probably by $400 to by $500 for a good one, and a good pre-owned one is going for about between $500 to $600 out there for that, for a TS510 AV, as the name has it right here for that. You got the top name right here on the side. I should say the other side. You got their information tag right over here as well too for that. And that's all I can really tell you guys about that. Unfortunately, the machine is not going to be salvageable, other than what we found on it right now, because you get the safety problems. The safety problem, the thing will not shut off, and the clutch will not idle down on her as well too. The clutch is frozen under for that, and the carb, it's letting air go past the main throttle shaft on her as well too, because of the actual shaft is damaged, plus the portion of the carb is also damaged as well too, because anytime you have a shaft and it's flexing down inside there, it's letting air bypass the actual shaft on her for that. So he needs a lot of work done to the machine if he would have wanted it done, but the customer does not want it done, so it's not going to get done out there for that. So that's what we found on this machine, guys, the good old Stihl TS510 AV. If anybody has any questions, comments, whatnot about this machine here, you can feel free to drop me a message here, and I'll try to get back to you within a couple days about some kind of follow-up questions, your information you drop. Like if you leave a question, I'll try to do a quick answer back to you about this machine, and if you have some kind of problem with it out there for that. I'll see you guys, and have a nice day.